Live. Yes, hello. I'm Andrew Jenkins, and this is a short countdown timer to help the various live feeds catch up and settle down, folks. And we're hanging out today with Steve Whittle, founder of male suicide prevention charity. Tough to talk, folks. So interesting topic this morning, and this week it's a sensitive theme, folks, and We'll need to handle this with respect and with care, and our topic today is from silence to male suicide, prevention and business triumph. So we're going to explore the stigma surrounding male suicide. That's where we're heading today, and we're just waiting for the feed to come up, but can't see it yet, but I'm hoping it'll be there in a second. Tap to join. There we go, I'm in. Hopefully we've got people joining in, so please give us a shout out in the comments so we know we're there. So there's Sarah's comment. Yeah, so we're exploring the stigma surrounding male suicide prevention, and to help us foster more understanding and support, folks. And give us a quick wave, Steve. There's Steve, and we've got Tilly Davis joined in. Fantastic. Thank you. Happy New Year to you both. And 122nd show, folks. How about that? So with Sarah, Steve, me, Marketing CX, and Healthy Minds Club, our sponsors. That's today's team, folks. Wow. Here we go. Boom, there we are, boom. So, oi, people and hi gang, it's Leaders Live showtime, folks. And hurrah and huzzah. I love that. I'm going to laugh at my own jokes again. And it's just after 8:45 a.m. here in the UK. And we are live on Leaders Live, spreading the love, folks. Spreading the love, yabba dabba do. Hope you enjoyed the groovy opener as well, gang. And this week we're delighted that we're being powered by Healthy Minds Club, this week's sponsor. And look out for who's sponsoring us each week. Oh, and please let me know if our audio is coming through too okay as well. It looks like it is because people are joining up. Fantastic. And if you're new to Leaders Live, a warm welcome to you. And Leaders Live is a dynamic weekly talk show that generates business through networking, through community, and extraordinary conversations that inspire. And as I mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and I host this interactive weekly Leaders Live show that's built up an awesome community of like-minded leaders, just like you folks joining in. And this is the first show after the Christmas celebrations, and we're into the New Year. So Happy New Year, everybody. So please don't be shy. We'd love you to love you to introduce yourself, join in, interact with the comments, please. And ask questions too as we go along. And we've got 3 simple rules: a safe community, mutual respect, and please no selling in the room. And our motto here is I to the power of we. And easy way that you can show some support for this free show and the time and effort we put into it is to use the little app called buymeacoffee.com, buymeacoffee.com/Leaders Live. Buy me 5 and you get a free half-an-hour coaching session, folks. What's not to like about that? And the link will be in the feed very shortly. And in fact, I could just do a quick test, I think, just while we're just talking. Hopefully, I can do a quick test, show you what it looks like. Just a bit of fun. And there we go. And all proceeds go back into the show, folks. So that's how it works. So it's just a bit of fun. And please smash those likes as well, folks. And those thumbs up, we really appreciate that. Keeps us motivated as we're going along. I can see plenty of people joining in, so that's good to know as well. So few, put it all together. What have you got? Yep, you've got it. Bibbidi, bibbidi, bobbidi, poo. And you'll be singing that song all day. So let's bring up our Leaders Live hangout guest this morning. Morning, Steve. How you doing? Steve Whittle.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is not your usual topic, so I'm really grateful that you're giving the charity the platform.
Yeah, thank you. And and we're delighted to have you. This is a really serious topic today, and we don't shy away from those difficult topics in Leaders Live, and today's no exception, because we're looking at male suicide and its stigma. And we think this is an important step in fostering and understanding support, folks. So for you guys listening live, and so this topic will require us all to have a bit of sensitivity, some care, some empathy, and to create that safe space this morning, folks, to talk about this difficult subject. So, hopefully we can engage in a thoughtful conversation that explore the perceived barriers preventing men from seeking help and in addressing this critical issue. And yeah, so Steve, just why, just as we're starting in, just give us a little bit of background. Why did you start Tough to Talk? Where are we heading today? So give us a quick sort of background, Steve, in terms of some context for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I know most people don't know me on this platform, but I regard myself as quite manly, quite butch, man's man. Um, I used to be in the forces, and I used
Yeah.
to work in the fitness industry, and
Mm.
I've been a life coach, and I've done all these quite masculine kind of roles. And
Mm.
so it was in 2022, I had my third and last attempt on taking my own life,
Oh, Steve.
and it was the first time that I told anybody about it. And
Mm.
if anybody wants to read that story, it's actually on the website. It's the first blog. But what happened is I spoke up for the very first time, completely stepped outside my comfort zone, and I was told constantly by the crisis team that I'm not alone. I'm not on my own on this. Lots of men feel this way. And ultimately, I just went, that's crap. That's total crap. Because I know thousands of men.
Technical term. Mm.
Yeah, I know thousands and thousands of men, and none of them feel like I do. And
Yeah.
so I then researched it. I just researched why are people telling me this when I know it's not to be true? And it turns out that it is true. And the stats along men not talking about their crises, their issues, and suffering from and going through suicide behaviors
Mm.
is huge, and
Yeah.
it's not being dealt with. And that's why we started Tough to Talk.
Uh, and brilliant for you as well. And gosh, what a story as well, Stephen. Thank you for just giving us a small, what am I looking for here? Just a small highlight in terms of, your own story here. So you're talking from experience here, which is absolutely brilliant. And thank you for sharing that. And we've got an audience question as well to kick us all off with. So, we've got a few people online already. So please join in and interact with us as we're going along. Steve, have you got the audience question, or do you want me to say it for you?
If you wouldn't mind to saying if it's in front of you, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
I can find that. So, look, many of us folks may know somebody who has been affected by the mental health challenges or suicide. And how do you think open conversations about male suicide can prevent, can make a positive impact in our communities? So, how do you think open conversations about male suicide can make a positive impact in our communities? That's today's audience question. So please feel free to interact with that. You know how it goes. For those of you that are on the show all the time, start the interaction off for us, and we can all engage with that. And thank you for Tilly and Sarah for putting that in the feed. That's brilliant. And while we wait for the comments to catch up, I just want to introduce Mrs. Moderator. Hello, Sarah Jenkins. How you doing? Happy New Year.
Good morning, Happy New Year. It's good to be back. I'd like to say, we're starting the new year with a bang. Start as we mean to go on, tackling difficult issues and topics. And it's good to see a lot of people back. It's nice to see Matthias and Jonas and Kieran and Anita and Laurie.
Brilliant.
Do add on the comments, and if you're online and you've not piped up yet, do just put a hello in the comments so we know
who you are.
you're there and listening. But I think this is an issue that people are reluctant to talk about in businesses, and because they're worried what they're going to uncover, and whether that's because they don't feel equipped to know how to deal with it, or whether they just rather brush it under under the carpet and pretend it's not there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, weren't we, the three of us, about what's in it for businesses, and our business is a bit scared of this topic because it's quite a thorny topic, right? So we'll hopefully be addressing that as well, and the business connection to that is what we intend to be doing today. All of these things are important. So let's bring Steve back in again. So here's our Steve, and let's just give you a quick round of applause, Steve, while we're at it. So. Hooray, feel the love, mate. Feel the love. So let's just bring back let's just start with the first question here. So we're talking, a Leaders Live with quite a diverse we like to pick topics that have a diversity angle to them and, affect all genders. So, the
Yeah.
audience, and we might be wondering why we're only addressing male suicide and not both the genders. What say you, Steve, to that?
Well, I think because of diversity and inclusion, we should absolutely be just focusing on men right now.
Right. Yeah.
Men make up 48% of the population. So I think they are a minority group and they happen to be struggling the most with dealing with thoughts of suicide. And men are dying by suicide 3 times the rate of women.
Three
So
times. Wow.
their wheel is squeaking the loudest and needs the most oil. And I think this is not a zero-sum game. All suicide is bad, but men and women need to come together to be able to address this issue. And we need to focus on what are the main reasons why men are not talking about their crises. And there's a couple of reasons why they're not, which I hope we'll cover today.
Yeah, we will do. Yeah. So I didn't realize that 3 times the amount. There's a big reason why we're talking about male suicide today. That's
Yeah.
huge, isn't it? My gosh. And, Steve, can you provide some stats for us here on the current state of sort of male suicide rates? And, what are
Absolutely.
let's start there.
Well, when I first started looking into this, the
Mm,
stats were the thing that really stuck out to me. The first stat that stuck out was that suicide is the number one preventable cause of death on the planet. The number one. We lose somebody to suicide on the planet every 40 seconds.
40
And
seconds.
that's unbelievable. And we know that 3 out of 4 of those are men. So it's massive. And we what I thought was quite interesting, and this highlights most women's superpower of empathy and caring,
Mm,
is that women are attempting suicide 3 times the rates of men, but men are completing suicide at 3 times the rates of women. And we know that women are being less successful because of their amazing empathy of the people around them. They often get picked up on what is going on in their lives, and people check in on them and so on. Whereas men, we it's believed that 80% of men who die by suicide are functioning adults and are not telling anybody, not known to the NHS, not known to their friends and family as having problems. Is when it happens, you just go, "Oh, that was a complete surprise. I didn't see that coming."
didn't see that
Um,
coming. Yeah.
and it's the ONS have just released the latest stats from 2022, and I've got them here, and the suicide numbers have gone up, which I think is a complete surprise to everybody because we all believe that more men are talking about mental health, their crises, their issues, and being more open. But what actually we do have is it's the same men speaking louder because the suicide numbers are still going up. We've got, so it went up. I think it went up to like five more suicides. No, so 50 went up by 59 more suicides this year. And so we've got, on average, about 12 men dying a day by suicide and 4 women.
Gosh. So say that again. 12 men,
12
4
men a
women.
day on average and 4 women.
And that's in the UK, I take it. Is that?
Yeah, but we have to. But why are men dying more? They choose the most graphic ways of dying. There is very little chance of them coming back from it, and we know the reasons why this happens. But there is often they just choose the most. I can't think of
Lethal
the word.
way. Yeah.
But the most complete way that
The most
they'll
complete
be
way.
able to come back from that. And of course, they're not letting people know, so they don't get interrupted, and and they don't obviously get the help prior to doing that.
Gosh. Yeah. So
In fact,
just
Bob Story just put it in here: the most lethal ways. Lethal was the word I was looking
the
for.
most lethal ways. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was fascinated by, that actually, so women attempt 3 times more than men, but don't complete because actually they're better connected. They've got better support mechanisms, we're thinking.
yeah,
So they don't go through the completion, but they have the thought processes, right? And interesting, but 3 times more men actually end
absolutely.
up completing and
I
more
really hate
lethal.
this phrase. They'll say, "Oh, it was a cry for help." It was, which often then leads to people saying it's attention seeking.
Mm,
When it comes to women when they are going through thoughts of suicide, but but actually, a cry for help is exactly that. It is they've got to their wits' end. They've got to the end. That's it. All right. So fine. If I can't get any help any other way, then I'm doing this. And if they then do that and they tell you, it's not because they're attention seeking. It's because they're at wits' end.
They're at
It
wit's
needs,
end.
yeah, it needs dealing with.
Mm.
So that bothers me a little bit. But yeah, yeah, women do tend to talk more and they get spotted more.
Okay, so let's just give you a quick break. Mrs. Moderator, what's going on the feed? There's some interesting stuff going on the feed. Pick it up
There is
for us.
some interesting stuff in the
Yeah.
feed. Matthias makes a really good point that we must talk about those toxic, I can't speak this morning, masculine traits that young lads are being raised on way too often. Stop using the phrase like man up or don't show your feelings. It's a disgrace, etc. We all have feelings and they are perfectly valid, and it needs a massive change. Asking for help and assistance is strength, not weakness.
Lovely. Well said,
And that
Matthias. Thank
kind
you.
of makes me think, you know, as
Mm.
a parent, we've got 3 girls,
Mm.
but as you know, as a parent, you try and teach your children, particularly, that it is, you know, it's important to talk, that we are there. But if as a parent you're, you know, teaching your children, or you know, as a boy, you can't express your feelings, you
Yeah.
have to be the
Stiff
strong
upper
side,
lip. Yeah.
etc. You know, I think it, like a lot of things in life, possibly it starts with the parents, which as a parent is terrifying because it's a massive responsibility. But on the other hand, you know, just think of the influence you have got as a parent to change the way things are perceived. You know, you start with one person, don't you?
Yeah.
And that's your child.
Yeah.
Um,
What Matthias is saying about the toxic masculinity is so true. And it doesn't get talked enough about. And when it does get spoken about, it often gets talked about how toxic masculinity affects women, and it does. So we should talk about that. But in terms of toxic masculinity and men, it's killing men because when men do open up, okay, you know, on the odd occasion they do open up, and it is in an environment which is quite toxic. They get told, "Oh, we often feel like that, mate. Come on, man up."
Yes. Yeah.
Just let's have a.
Get a grip of
And then,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And because they've had that
Mm.
rejection, they're less likely then to do it again, attempt it again, because they don't want to show that vulnerability again. With Man Up, though, just as an interesting note, we've adopted Man Up as the names of our journals and the name of our new book that's coming out,
Wonderful.
because Man Up is the opposite of Man Up is Man Down, and nobody wants that. And if we own the insult, it can't harm us because every man should be up. And the most masculine thing you can do is take care of yourself and then take care of others. And that is truly manning up. So that's why we've adopted it.
yeah, it's
Interesting.
changing the
Thank you.
perception of the perceived insult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to highlight, Graham, I am so sorry to read your comment. Graham's nephew sadly committed suicide 7 weeks
Oh.
ago, and I would imagine that is incredibly raw, and it shows the need for significant investment in the area. Graham, you have our heartfelt
Absolutely.
sympathy and cannot imagine what that's like.
No. Yeah, that's really gone through me. That has.
Yeah.
So sorry to hear that, Graham. Yeah.
I suppose it's not surprising, though, is it, when we're talking about this, there are going to be people going, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Another comment from, I'm assuming this is a gentleman called Rafe Newen. Good morning, Rafe. Not seen you on the feed before. Mental health in men seems to be a hidden topic. I've found in my work how often there is an intergenerational context. Do you agree?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Over to you, Steve.
Yeah, so it
Is
is. Yeah, I know Rafe.
is it
I've met him. I met him before a networking event. Hey, Rafe.
Okay.
Um,
Hi,
so
Rafe.
it is. It's not. I'm not sure as much as a hidden topic, but it is a stigma. So there is a stigma around talking about it. So that's why we're always talking. And you see here, we're trying to create tough talkers in organisations to be able to have these difficult conversations, because it's a hidden topic or a tough topic to talk about if you're the person going through it, because then obviously the stigma, stoicism, that vulnerability, the shame, all those things that may stop you from talking. But also, then there's all the people who want to talk about it and help people, don't know what to say. What can they say? I mean, I get asked all the time, can you use the word suicide? Well, you absolutely must use the word suicide,
What else would you
because
use?
there's no other words. Well, often, I can come back to that in a second, but we don't know. We worry that if we start talking about the subject, are we more likely to get people to do it? Which is not true. It's a massive myth. If you talk about suicide to somebody who is considering suicide, you're not going to make them do it any sooner. Most of the time, they have a plan, they know how they're going to do it, and you're not going to speed that process up. So we do need to talk about it more. So with tough talkers, we need to get people who are suffering, comfortable enough to talk about it, and then people in their environment to be able to talk about it. But with regards to suicide, when you intervene with somebody who is having suicide behaviors, if you're not confident in the words that you're using, you can sometimes say something like, "You're not going to do something stupid, are you?" Now, if you're the person going through suicide behaviors, suicide is the solution to your problem, and that's not stupid. So
Yeah.
of course they will say, "No, I'm not doing something stupid," because the thing they're going to do is the solution. So you need to use the word suicide because you need to get down to the bottom of what they're doing.
Yeah, I like the way you express that. Yeah, don't use the word stupid because to them it's perfectly logical, right?
Yeah,
This is this.
absolutely.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And
And in
thanks.
all cases, just in case that I get to say this
Mm,
later, in all cases, people who are having suicide thoughts don't want to die. They just want their pain to
to
stop.
go away. Okay. So it's about
So if we can figure out what their pain is, then we can help them take that away. We'll have so many more people left on the planet.
gosh, I hadn't appreciated that. This is about stopping the pain, and this
Yeah,
is the most simple way of doing it for when your head's in that space. Is that
yeah,
yeah? Okay.
yeah. This is why we use the acronym of HOPE, which is Hold On, Pain Ends. And this is why
Oh,
they use the semicolon, which is pause but carry on, because if you've got time to pause, you can figure out your pain, and then you don't have to take the next step. So it's pause but carry on. So hold on, pain ends.
I like that. Hold on, pain ends. So time, pause to figure it out, right? So that's part of the solution there. I'm guessing, helping
Yeah,
men to pause just for a moment rather than just go ahead.
yeah,
Gosh.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Let's just bring back Sarah. Is there anything else, Mrs. Moderator? Is there anything else you want to bring up right now before we
Um,
move on?
yeah, Anita, she says, I find men tend to open up to women more than to men. Is that common or just a snapshot of her own environment?
Nice question.
Oh, I would love that to be common. That would be absolutely amazing. I think, Anita, what you might have done is created an amazing environment. So, kudos to you. That is great. But what we find is through the data is that now, again, I'm talking specifically about men here. With men who are considering suicide as an option, they're not talking to anybody, whether you're a man or a woman. The We know from the data that comes back from all the inquests that I've had that men reach out to at least one person in the 6 weeks prior to them dying by suicide, and
Ah,
it's either missed or dismissed. And it's not dismissed because we don't care, and it's not missed because we don't care, but it's just it could have been that they'd said, "Listen, I'm not feeling myself at the moment. I'm feeling really down." And again, it could have been something quite toxic. And they said, "Come on, we often feel like that. That's okay. Let's go for a pint." So it was dismissed. Or it could have been just a passing comment that was then missed. I mean, if somebody made an obvious comment like, well, I'm hoping it would be obvious. If somebody made a comment in a workplace and they said, "Oh, well, that won't matter next week," and you knew that person, you knew that person had nothing coming up next week,
gosh.
would you would you miss that or dismiss that? Would you be brave enough to ask, well, what do they mean by that comment?
Yeah.
With men, it's very difficult to pick up on the signs for
Very
those who.
difficult. Right. Yeah. There was there was a documentary. I can't remember his surname now, but Roman, son of famous Spandau
Yeah,
Ballet singer,
yeah,
he talked about this, didn't he? There's a beautiful documentary by him on catch up and stuff. Just one thing that he said, and you might have a link to that, Steve. I don't know, but or you pick this theme up a minute, but he would say, "Look, yeah, ask twice," because he had no idea his best friend was going to complete suicide at all. He had no idea. And one of the things that he now says to all men is, "Look, learn to ask twice." Because men don't necessarily tell you, but they will hint at, as you've just said, reaching out, and
yeah,
little hints. Can you tell us a bit more about that, Steve?
yeah. So I'm fine is the most common answer from men. And again, I'm sure that comes from women too. So people who are watching this, please know that I'm focusing primarily on men. But yeah, I'm fine. So
I'm
when
fine. Yes. Okay.
so when you ask somebody, oh yeah, how you doing? I'm fine. It's
I'm
not You're
fine.
not really asking how they're doing. It's
It's
just a platitude.
it's just a
It's
platitude.
just like saying hello.
Yeah.
And it's I'm fine. So it is a real problem. So, but if you genuinely cared about what that person was going through, if we took a moment to genuinely care,
Mm.
we would ask properly. And so there's an interesting story about a construction company that has an induction process now of bringing people onto the site, and the foreman always takes them to one side and says, "Your mental health is really important to me, and I'm going to ask you every day on a scale of 1 to 10 what you are. And if you're anything less than a 5, we're going to have a conversation."
That's brilliant.
And then he explains, he says, because if you're not on your A game, if your mental health is not great, then we are all in danger on the side, because it's a dangerous place for you not to be on your A game. And it works so well now that he often gets asked what his number is before he's even asked anybody else, because it's
Lovely.
become normal for those men to interact in that way. So yeah, we need to ask more. And one of the other problems that we have as well is that everything that this is men and women as well, but it's mostly men. Men are very black and white. There's a problem, let's fix it.
Mm.
Is we often lump everything under mental health. And so when we start talking about mental health to men, they'll often switch off because they haven't got a mental health problem. They haven't got a mental health problem that's causing them to think about suicide. So there's a really good quote, if you don't mind me reading it, from
No,
Headspace.
please do. Yeah.
And they say, suicide is rarely the result of a single event or factor, but is understood as a complex interplay of biological, psychological, and environmental factors that leave a person feeling desperate and hopeless about life. So a lot of the time it can be not about their mental health. So I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here, but I just want to share that
No, please do.
there's,
Yeah.
there's 5 key factors that we often look at when
Yes, I do.
looking at people who are on a continuum towards suicide behaviors.
Mm.
Um, and one of those is current life events. So that could be that in their current life right now, they could be in debt. They may have, their wife might have left them. They are not being able to see their kids. They might be having substance abuse. There might be something going on in their life. That is a factor that they are dealing with. Then they have biological factors. So they might have like a genetic problem. They have brain chemistry problems. They might be poorly. They might have cancer. They might have something that they're going on. Then they have identity factors, which is, I'm a man. I'm a gay man. I
Mm.
don't know what I am. It could be all of those kind of things. It might be even a gendered factor where there might be a man working in an office full of women, and he doesn't feel his place.
Mm.
And then, of course, there's past history. So you might have a past history of trauma, homelessness, the care system, abuse. Now, if you look at those 4 factors, at the moment, none of those would be identified as a mental health problem,
Mm.
because the 5th factor is psychological problems. They are factors that could be mental health disorders or phobias, something to do with your mental health.
Mm.
So when we talk about men struggling, and we say, listen, if you're struggling, come speak to a therapist, come and speak to this mental health person, speak to the Samaritan, speak to Calm, phone the NHS 111, speak to a therapist. It all sounds like it's a mental health problem. But if you've got a man who is got a past history of gambling and drinking, whose wife has just left him and she's been awful to him and not letting him see the kids, his job is under pressure, all of those things are going on. None of those are a mental health problem. So it's a communication issue. Even though we know
Ah.
he's going to talk to the same person, we're not using language and tone of voice that men will relate to. So that's why we're working with companies to change, how they talk and what they talk about when they're talking about issues that these factors that would affect men.
Interesting. Interesting. And those factors again, folks, where so first of all, current life events like divorce, change in circumstance in marriage, drugs, alcohol, etc. Second one was biological. So if someone's severely ill or sudden shock, those kind of things. Identity factors, like gender, being gay, those kind of things can cause difficulties, past history, trauma, abuse, homelessness, and then psychological. And none of those, folks, are mental well-being or mental health issues. They're different from that. And Steve, you've said that that's really down to communication, and it's a communication issue, and finding one's voice and helping men to find that voice. Thank you. Let's just bring Sarah in again, just give you a quick break.
What I was going to say is they will lead. They all have the potential to then lead into poorer mental health, which
poorer mental health.
But
it's just not seen as mental health, is it?
Not to man. No, not certainly not to man. He's not dealing with a mental health issue. He's dealing with a life issue.
Yeah, a life issue, right? Okay, and there's that delineation in a male mind potentially. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Right, Mrs. Moderator.
Oh, so much to choose from. Graham makes a really good point. But we all have mental health, and at times it's good, at times it's not so good. Recognizing that it fluctuates is really helpful. So we don't all have to be amazing all the time, or completely traumatized all the time. It will fluctuate. Really good point, Graham.
That is a good point. Hard for blokes to come to terms with that, though. When they're out of sorts, it feels really strange, doesn't it, for a lot of men? So, including myself, actually. So, yeah, thank you, Graham.
Matthias makes a good point that there are many things that we can look at for the reasons why. I'm going to praise you this a bit.
Yeah.
It can be connected with all sorts of factors such as loneliness, long-term stress, breakup. Never before have more young people felt isolated or alienated at school or work, sitting alone for most of the day, then going home where many of them continue sitting alone. It's such a demanding schedule that you don't have time necessary to talk to colleagues. So your social aspect is gone. So working from home, your social aspect can be completely different. They have a good initiative in Bergen called the Psychiatry Alliance. The organisation works on helping those struggling from depression, addiction or mental illnesses to have a meeting space to sit down and talk, play football, go for a walk, doing something, all free of charge. So Wonderful. It's about bringing those safe spaces, isn't it, that people feel that they can go to.
Yeah, well, and that's fantastic. So one of the massive issues that we've got at the moment is that you have things like those spaces like Man Club and Man Shed and all those other places where men can go to get into. But the men who are in those spaces are a lot less likely to die by suicide because they're getting the help they need, they're getting the support they need, they've recognized they've got a problem. It's those men who are not going to those spaces. How do we get to those men to say, listen, this space will be really good for you, without them having to admit that they have a problem, that they are vulnerable, that they are feeling a certain way? How do we get the majority of men who would not be willing to go to those spaces to do that? And that's where we come in. That's what we're targeting. We're targeting the majority of men who are not willing to get the help because of stigma, gender bias, the generational gender bias, the stoic nature of man, all of those things, the toxic masculinity that men are suffering from. We need to break those down and show them that being masculine is about taking care of yourself.
Yeah, and that's what Tough to Talk is doing, isn't it? It's that first port of call, Steve, before you then move them on to another resource potentially. Is that what you're suggesting there?
Well, we're not crisis support. There are already amazing people out there. So the Samaritans, Mike, Papyrus, all of those guys, they're amazing. We don't want to step on their toes. What we want to do is get the people who are not speaking to them to speak to them.
Indeed.
So we work with organisations to create, to put tough talkers into your organisation. Brilliant. So men in leading positions who can help get rid of that cognitive dissonance. To say, listen, I'm successful and I'm willing to talk about my issues. And you could be successful too and talk whilst having your own issues. And we provide men who are trained in understanding suicide intervention, so they understand recognising the signs, and trained in how to intervene and then save someone's life. But also, how do they get their organisation to do more? So they're working from within to get that top-down, bottom-up approach.
Yeah, and as you said, you mentioned one particular business, the leader of that business, I thought was a game changer, would ask everybody in the business, look, how are you feeling out of a scale of 10? And if it's less than 5, we will have a conversation, right? What a game changer that is. Is that one of the methods of identifying, and these kind of small snippets of hints and clues that people considering suicide may be leaving as a trail of breadcrumbs.
Yeah, so the 1 to 10 scale thing is really just to stop it just being a morning. How you doing? I'm
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Stop
fine.
that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
about
A
actually
platitude.
taking an interest in that person and actually getting to the bottom of
Yeah.
what it is. And what we're trying to promote is what do you know about a person? What do you see that person doing, and what do you hear that person saying? We
Yeah.
need to, if especially as men in male-dominated spaces, quite toxic, banter-filled environments, if we can care more. So, for example, I know my partner, who's probably listening, they've got such a tight knit group of ladies that if one of their friends lost their father, maybe their father died, they would gather round, there'd be phone calls, there'd be all of that kind of stuff. We know that we're in the men in the same environment, we get asked, oh, so and so lost his dad. Did you ask him how he was?
Mm.
Yeah, he said he was fine.
Yeah.
Because we don't,
We
and that's
don't pick
something
up on the
that
signals.
yeah, and that's something that we know. So we know that person has just lost somebody. What are we doing to take an interest in that person to make sure they're okay?
Yeah.
And then what do we see? So normally, if we see a guy who is normally, really well kept and he's healthy, he's doing loads of great stuff, and then but over a period of time, we see this person just start drinking more alcohol, being less kept, maybe caring less about what they're doing at work. That's what we see, right? So because we see that, what are we going to do about that? Are we just going to ignore that, miss it, or dismiss it? What are we going to do, or are we going to intervene? And then what do we hear? What do we hear about? What do we hear that person say? Is it something as obvious as that won't matter next week? Are we hearing that this person is all of a
Yeah.
sudden sorting out a will, giving away all their possessions, and all those things, and you go, well, why is this person doing this, right?
Yeah. Change of
So we
behavior.
need to,
Yeah.
yeah, so we need to take more interest in the people around us, especially as men.
Right.
We need to take more responsibility.
And picking up those cues and clues a little bit more readily and really thinking through stuff instead of just the platitude, hey, you're all right. He's fine. He said he's fine. So, ask twice, for example, and just figure it all out a little bit more and just think about that person and care for them like women do for each other. Men need to do something similar in a masculine way. So I'm
Yeah,
picking up, Steve. Right. Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Let's just give
And
you a quick, sorry, go on, Steve. Yeah, no, carry on.
it was just because this generational stoicness and
Stoicness.
generational
Yeah.
bias is what we're teaching to our children, and we don't mean to do it.
Mm,
Um, and so when we are, it's really awful. It's when a young lad falls over, you see it quite often. They are picked up, stood up, and said, "Hey, it's okay. Everything's all
mm.
right. It doesn't hurt. It's fine. Run it off." Right?
Keep
And that
smiling.
little boy is going, "Actually, this bloody hurts. This really hurts." Somebody I trust, somebody I
Yeah.
respect, somebody in my life who is my leader is telling me that that doesn't hurt or that doesn't matter. And
But it does. Yeah.
then across the way, they see a girl fall over who is then picked up and often held and
Mm.
made sure she's okay and she's cuddled. And then the boy's thinking, why
Why
is
don't I get
there,
that? Yeah.
yeah, why are they more important? And as they grow up, we get that difference in gender roles on how we're treated with our feelings.
Yeah.
Um, and it's that we need to start looking at that, generationally to move it up.
Societal norms
Change it
breaking
over time.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can still be masculine about it, stand them up and go, "Mate, I bet that really hurt." Yeah, and it's and it's okay because the pain will stop. Okay, you
Yeah.
can still be masculine, but
Yeah.
let's acknowledge pain and talking about it.
It's that back to that hope thing again, isn't it? Hold on, the pain will go. The pain ends. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
hold on, pain ends. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, Mrs. Moderator, what's going on in the feed? There's loads going on in the feed. Let's pick
There
up
is
some of these.
lots going on, so I'm going to praise you a bit and
Mm.
mix a bit up.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
The pandemic, Steve, has the pandemic made a difference?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Fascinating. Yeah.
the ONS stats show that actually going into the pandemic there was a slight drop,
Ah, okay.
and then it started to go up again. But
Mm,
I'm not sure how well connected it is to the pandemic. You would have thought, wouldn't you, that with the
yeah.
pandemic it would have gone up. But again, this is there's a really good book called The Making of Manhood, if anybody ever wants to read that, which is
Making
like
of Manhood.
Making of Manhood, which is a collation of all the anthropological studies that we've done about how men have become masculine. And it talks about, and it still happens today, for thousands of years, men are brought up to go through a rite of passage. They happen less nowadays, but they are brought up to be strong and serve. So who do you serve? So when things like the pandemic happen, men automatically by default go, this is a a crap show. We need to help sort this out. And actually
They rose
they
to it.
try and fix the problem. So actually their own problems become less important.
I got you.
And it's when we've got more time on our hands to think about how our own problems are, then it becomes more of a problem.
Okay, yeah, when we get more time to think through our own stuff. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Sarah.
Yeah, just also want to mention, Audrey, you've asked about sharing it on Facebook. For those people who are new to the show and don't know, this show comes out as a podcast a few days after we've done the live broadcast. So it can be rewatched on YouTube, on Andrew's Leaders Live website, or it's on all the podcast channels as well. So there's loads of different ways that people can listen to it. So please do share, because obviously the more we put it out there, the more that people need to know. Let's have a look. So
Thanks, Audrey. That's brilliant. Wow.
Anita,
33,000 users. My gosh, look at that. Yeah.
Anita says one cue she's heard about is when somebody's being depressed or anxious, they suddenly cheer up only to take their life a week or a few days later. Is that common?
There you go. Steve's nodding away there.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you see? What do you hear? What do you know? So all of a sudden, this guy who is the grumpiest man on the planet, all of a sudden is really chipper. For no reason, nothing. But you don't know. You don't know of anything that's happened. It's not like they've met somebody and got married or something like that. And you know that's probably why they're happy now. Go and check, because they've made a decision that's going to fix their problem. They're in pain. They've come up with a solution, so they can be happy now because it'll be okay.
Indeed. Thank you. Anything else, Sarah?
Going back to the working from home, people have completely forgotten the benefit or the adverse side effects of being isolated and on your own working from home. So it comes back to balance, doesn't it, within companies? But I think the other thing that I wanted to highlight, which is not from the comments, but we have a lot of business leaders who listen to this.
Yeah.
If you're in your business going, actually, yes, this is amazing, get in touch with Steve and do something about it. Because it's so easy, isn't it, to listen to something and go, that is absolutely what needs to happen. And then we blink, life goes on and we don't do anything. So, we must have an audience with guys who are in business, who are okay, and actually who could have a massive impact on others in their organization. So please, please, please get in touch with Steve.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that all business leaders care about their teams, right? But let's assume for a second that that none of you care about your teams and you only care about your bottom line, right?
That's never going to happen in business, right? Yeah.
We know that for every pound that you invest in helping people with their mental health and crisis, you'll get about £5.60 back, because we know that it's between 33 and 42 billion pounds lost each year to businesses in the UK because of absenteeism or presenteeism from staff who are struggling with crisis, who are not dealing with them. And excuse me, if you had a look at your EAP data, you'll find that a lot less men are taking up EAP data. More women are
What's
having
that? APA data? What's that?
EAP, so your employee assistance program.
Your employee assistance
program. They're accessing it a lot less. Women are generally taking more mental health days off because they are brilliant and they have empathy and they understand, hey, this is not right, I'm going to do it. Whereas men are not doing that. So men will be off for things like, I've got a bad back that only lasts a couple of days, which is a bit odd, isn't it? So they're off for more physical reasons, but actually it's probably a mental health reason and they're not dealing with it. So actually, if we dealt with all of that, absenteeism would go down, presenteeism would improve. So the money lost, your retention would improve, your recruitment needs would go down. So if it was just I only cared about money, this is a great way of saving and making it. Yeah,
I'm with you. So if you care about the bottom line, then this has a direct link to the bottom line, right? Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Now we did this poll, Steve, about societal expectations, and
Yeah.
what do you perceive as the primary barrier preventing men from seeking help to address male suicide? And we had stigma, reluctance to talk, shame and embarrassment, communicating distress. I'm guessing all of these are true, but it's interesting stats here. Apart from the last one, fairly equal. 35, 21, 36, but then 9% for communicating distress. Any thoughts on any of those, Steve? Anything you want to add to that?
Well, what I thought was brilliant was that
Mm,
most people picked up on it in the comments that it's all of them, and
it's
that
all
is
of them. Yeah.
that is very true. Of course, the stigma around showing vulnerability in
Mm,
today's society is massive. So they're not going to show that vulnerability. That reluctance to talk is a combination of the communicating distress as well. So it's I don't want to talk, and also I don't know how to talk. I
how
don't
to
know how to
talk.
do that.
Right.
Yeah,
Don't
I don't know
know.
how.
Don't know how to talk. Yeah. Okay.
And
Mm,
also, men have a limited. I know most men who are on here who don't. I'm sorry, but most men have a limited emotional vocabulary. We know from studies with children and teenagers when we ask them to describe the feelings from emojis. A lot of the time, boys only tend to recognize anger or happiness and a
gosh.
few others. They don't, and so having a limited vocabulary about how you're feeling is a real pressure. So often it comes out as frustration and angry. So that can be really difficult. But yeah, the shame and embarrassment is another one because we're supposed to be strong and masculine, and we are strong and masculine.
Mm.
But when we've previously spoken out, we've been berated for it, and social media doesn't help. Social media outs men all the time.
Social media outs men all the time. In terms of what way, Steve?
Well, so with that we're either displayed as toxic,
Okay.
so we are bad for women. We're either
Mm,
displayed as a bumbling fool. If you look at any TV program on television where the man is the sidekick, he's often seen as a bumbling fool who does all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I know I'm going to start to sound like an MRA now, a male rights
mm,
activist. I'm not, but there's just little subtle things happening in life all the time. You know, when a woman has a baby, for example, um, it's massively traumatic for the woman, but the man always gets left behind. He's always seen in the background carrying the pram in and doing everything else like that. And those images are actually used on cards and things like that. And you go, well, this
mm,
is
yeah.
we're being left behind. We're seen as that person, um, and then of course there's I know we're moving on from this, but in addition to all of these, there's all of the things that affect men a lot more in life. I know that we've run out of time, but
Yeah.
there's things like loneliness is a massive factor for men. They even when they're with people, they're lonely because they're not able to communicate how they're feeling, so they are lonely. Um, Homelessness is a massive factor. 86% of people living rough are men, and they're not prioritized in the same way as women and children. And
Mm,
again, that's not a them and us issue. It's just that if you were gonna if you've got limited resources and you are going to prioritize, of course you're going to prioritize the women and the children.
of course.
Um,
Mm.
but why can't it be prioritize everybody? Make more funding available. Is that those kind of things? All of those kind of things are any factors that affect men more will affect them towards male suicide more.
Gosh. Yeah. And just thinking about, and we're just coming to the end of the show now, and I want to go on to just the business trend in a moment. But just before I do that, Sarah, anything else that you want to add from the comments or from the comments
Not
on the
not from
poll
the
or anything like
comments,
that? Mm.
Oh, actually, Anise says facial expression recognition has been shown to be stronger in women than men, and it probably plays a subtle yet profound role in the topic.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Steve said
Not
that,
what you
hasn't he?
say, it's what
Yeah.
you don't say that's written all over your face, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually hard to describe. But actually, facial recognition, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if that could play a part in helping men to describe that, because you can pick up the facial emotions and
Yeah.
use that as a way of helping men to come to terms with what they're really thinking and feeling. I
Yeah,
don't know,
I think
just a thought.
one
Yeah.
thing I also wanted to
Mm,
say was, we've talked about that it's not necessarily perceived mental health; it's crises.
mm,
It can be debt, it can be alcohol, it can be
indeed,
gambling.
those are
So
the
it,
triggers
it's finding the courage, isn't it?
mm,
I guess to reach out and
to reach out.
admit that you have a problem, but knowing that actually once you reach out, it is fixable.
Yeah.
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 In almost every case, if you can find that strength to talk, you will save yourself. That's it. And that we just
Yeah.
need to get that across to people. Because, oh no, I'm going to digress a little bit. But if you ask any man on the planet, in fact, ask anybody, what is the solution to overcoming your mental health problems or any of these crises, they will almost 100% of the time say, talk about it. And
Talk
then
about it.
if you say to them, okay, are you going to talk about your problem? They'll go, no. And
Yeah.
it's that cognitive dissonance. It's they know actually talking about my issues will really help me, but actually talking about my issues, the barriers of feeling vulnerable, looking weak, going against the grain, all those things outweigh knowing that I'll get that help, and that's
Yeah.
that cognitive dissonance that we have to get over.
And that's the bit that helps them to hold on, doesn't it? You said earlier, so the pain can end, and it's finding a way, the strength to talk, because it's tough to talk, as we'll come on to that in a moment. But,
Yeah.
just from a business point of view, and the stigma surrounding the mental health issues that we've picked up today, what can we do? What can business leaders do? In just taking that one example that you mentioned earlier was fantastic. The score out of 10 and picking on those that are below 5 out of 10 is we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Are there any other thoughts that you can add to that?
Well,
For
they can
businesses to
start.
pick up.
Well, most men aspire to do something else. So they're in the business, they want to be the best at it, and they want to move up, and they want to move up, and everything else like that. So when businesses create safe spaces and open door policies, men aren't going to go into them, because as soon as they walk into that safe space to have to admit that they have a problem or go through an open door policy to say, hey, listen, I'm really struggling. In their head, the perception is that they've got now a bullseye on their back from all their colleagues who now want their job. And when they speak to their boss, they're thinking, well, my boss is now going to pass me over for promotion, not give me that project that I want, and so on. So they just do not work.
Talk. Yeah.
So the solutions is finding the leaders in those organizations, not just be a leader because they're the CEO, but the leader who might be, for want of a better phrase, I don't know, the gobshite on the shop floor who everybody looks to. Find all of these people in the business and get them to start to become the tough talkers, to be talking about these men's issues, get them trained up, and get their stories on the internet, and say, I'm the CEO of this business, but I had to take 3 months off because I had a mental health problem, but I saw help, I got this, I've now come back stronger. And then everybody, the men around them will go, that cognitive dissonance will start to disappear, because actually I can be successful in spite of the issues that I'm having. We do that enough, that will filter out to families, start to filter into generational biases.
Gotcha. Okay. So I've just got that right. So that's having leaders in the organisation that have trained specifically to help on a confidential basis. Is that what you're suggesting? That
Yeah.
people have got
Yeah,
people to
yeah.
go to without thinking they're going to be affected because they've just told the boss their weakness.
Yeah, but also they're tough talkers.
Yeah.
So they will
Okay.
take the conversation to the people. They don't just wait for it. They are proactively talking about these things.
Yeah. Dr. Laurie Hales, and congratulations on the doctor, by the way. I've just noticed this here in the chat. Anything to say about that there than just what she's just said there? Find people with social capital. That's just interesting.
Yeah. So because again, we often listen to the loudest voices, not to the most important voices. So people with the largest social capital who can then spread the voice, spread the word, are really important. So that's why I was talking about the guy on the shop floor who everybody listens to. He may not be a leader by title, but he is a natural leader of those people around them. Let's get them inspiring other people.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, brilliant. Look, we're running out of time as always, I'm afraid. And I'm really pleased that we've discussed this really tricky conversation. And if you want to get hold of Steve, this is Steve's website here, Tough to Talk. And it's a great website here. And, I've been involved with Steve for a while now, just talking about this whole thing. And it's just fantastic to have you on the show talking about this stuff. Is there anything you want to say about your book as well that you're writing, which is that the Man Up book, is it? No, the Man Down book.
Well, no, it is Man Up.
It is Man Up,
and
yeah.
it's done that specifically to trigger people to go,
Gotcha.
what's it about? It's a selection of stories from men. It's 21 stories from men who have had those those factors that we spoke about earlier, suffered all of those and come out the other side. We've got a fabulous psychologist who gives an overview of what's going on. All the money raised from the book will go to the charity, so we can provide understanding suicide intervention training courses for companies and organisations. But the book is the first one of its kind, and we're really, really proud of it. And it's actually been entered. We're hopefully going to be entered for a reward, which is going to be amazing. So we're hopefully that'll be really good. But can you repost the website? Oh yeah, someone's asked for that.
Yeah, notice that's Laurie. Yeah,
yeah, the book's really good. But we've also got a Man Up journal,
yeah.
which is we have a Man Up journal, which is a journal for men who don't journal. So men, I've got unfinished journals all over the place, and this journal is works over 3 months, which helps you focus on the 5 key things that men should that struggle with the most, which is relationship health, work health, psychological health, and physical health, and so on. So, and he focuses on those, helps you set goals for it, and then by the end of the 3 months, you should have a much bigger, understanding of what you're going through. But yeah, we do all that stuff.
Yeah, thank you. And the website's just appeared in the chat. So there you go, Laurie, Dr. Laurie. And just a quick reminder, look, if you're struggling with this issue right now, then please head over to Steve's website, where you'll find lots and lots of appropriate resources. And just to repeat that, that's toughtotalk.com. So there it is. And yeah, that's really important. And there's lots on the website. When's the book coming out, Steve? What's
You can order it on an ebook now, but the paperback copy will be out on the 6th of March. And if you do go to our website looking for support, that's exactly the page. Get support. It's been written aimed at men. So you'll very quickly find out where where you are and go, that's me, that's my number.
And there it is at the top of your website, get support. There it is. So let's just go to that now. Let's see if I can click it. Oh,
cool. I know we're short time, so before I leave it all, I just want to leave everybody with the what do we know, what do we see, and what do we hear about the people around us. Start taking interest in the men around us, in those factors, and then don't take their first answer. That's my
don't take their first answer. I'm fine. Yeah, okay, brilliant. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for a really enlightening conversation. Wow, I'm really pleased that I'm really pleased that we've addressed this. It's a really, really important topic, and thank you so much for coming on and talking about this vital subject for preventing suicide for men, and actually, for women too, but essentially for men. And just a quick one from Sarah. I know this is a little bit of a juxtaposition we're doing here, a little bit of a dissonance coming here, but just a quick CTA on Leaders Live for us, just to finish off. Sarah?
Yeah, just to remind you, we do tackle all sorts of issues. If there's anything that you would like us to discuss, please pop it in the chat. We always say this and nobody does. So this is your opportunity.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
And if you found this valuable, let's try and get Leaders Live to more people. Share the links, invite people to come on. If you've enjoyed it and found it useful, tell all your friends.
Yeah, thank you. And please do. Yeah. And this one particularly, let's spread the word on this particular show, because this is massively vital for everybody. And just a quick one on next week's, the Goose for next week, where we're going next week. A complete change of scene next week. We're talking about perfecting your CV, art or science. And we've got director from 410 People, Jane Vincent, talking again. She's been on the show before as well. And we're talking about CV. So that'll be really interesting. And that's timely as well. Not only is this subject timely for January, this subject is also timely for people looking for new jobs and things like that. So we think you're going to love it. We can't wait, and be there or be square. And Steve, let's just bring Steve back again. Is there anything finally that you want to drop into the conversation just as we're parting, Steve?
Only that we are a charity. And we try and provide loads of courses and training for organisations that can't afford them, so we can help with do this. But if anybody on here has any would like to help us in any way, to help us raise funds to do more good, please get in touch. We're always looking for opportunities, and maybe you can do something where we can provide training for you guys for something back. We don't just like to beg, but if you can help us, please get in touch.
Brilliant. Thank you, Steve. Absolutely. And again, toughtotalk.com is the website if you need some help right now. So there we go. Thank you again, Steve. And yeah, we're gonna wave goodbye to you now. Thank you for a very enlightening show, and thank you for kicking off 2024 with this vital subject. Yeah, and just out of interest, Steve, just a very quick one. January, that's always a tough time for people, right? For suicide. Is that have I got that?
Can be. I don't
Yeah,
want to ruin Blue Monday here. Blue
mm,
Monday is a great sentiment because Blue Monday is brilliant for getting people talking about
indeed.
problems and talking. But actually, it was created by the holiday
Yeah, I
industry,
know. Yeah, that's why I didn't mention it
our
today. Yeah,
holidays.
yeah,
So, but brilliantly, even though it's
mm,
a myth,
yeah.
we've organizations like the Samaritans and Mind and so on have really embraced it and got people talking. So it's an amazing opportunity. But
Amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is a tough month because of SAD and those kind of things. So yeah, look after each other even more.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's great. And yeah, we're just gonna close out on our outro now because we've run out of time. But thanks for watching, folks. And yeah, thanks for that myth about Blue Mondays as well. That's really useful. But it's funny how that's worked in your favour as well. So yeah, we're going to wave goodbye to you now. Thanks again, Steve, for just being on our show and talking about this very tricky subject. And thanks for everyone who joined in and supported it. And we'll see you again next week, folks. So cheers again. See you again. Bye-bye. Thanks again.